Begun to Rock the Grass by Emily Dickinson. The wind began to rock the grass with threatening tunes and low. He flung a menace at the earth, a menace at the sky. The leaves unhooked themselves from trees and started all abroad. The dust did scoop itself like hands and throw away the road. The wagons quickened on the streets, the thunder hurried slow. The lightning showed a yellow beak and then a livid claw. The birds put up the bars to nest, the cattle fled to barns. There came one drop of giant rain, and then, as if the hands that held the dams had parted hold, the waters wrecked the sky, but overlooked my father's house, just quartering a tree. Emily Dickinson was an American poet born in Amherst, Massachusetts. She was something of a recluse, and near the end of her life hardly left her room, dressing in white and speaking to people through the door. She frequently wrote on life and mortality, and her poems feature slant rhyme, which means some of the lines half rhymed. They didn't fully rhyme, and we'll look at that in this poem. Dashes, and there certainly are a lot of dashes in this poem, and unconventional punctuation, often in the ballad stanza. So a ballad stanza has tetrameter on lines 1 and 3 and trimeter on lines 2 and 4. So tetrameter is 8 syllables per line and trimeter is 6 syllables per line. And the slant rhyme appears in lines B, the second line, and then the fourth line, as it is in this poem. So let's have a look at these structural elements. The wind began to rock the grass. The wind began to rock the grass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So count that out with me in the second line. With threatening tunes and low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Third line. He flung a menace at the earth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A menace at the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see the tetrameter and trimeter in this poem. Let's take a look at the slant rhyme. So the rhyme in the first line, A, is grass, and in the third line, C, is earth. No rhyme. Low and sky, however, have a slant rhyme. In other words, they half rhyme. Let's take a look in the next stanza. Abroad and road almost rhyme. They half rhyme. It's known as slant rhyme. Slow and claw, the same thing once again. So this is a video clip showing a storm, and you'll see that the wind is blowing the waves onto the road, and the sky is grey and ominous, and it's difficult to see it. It's wrecked by water. Instead of seeing how the grass might move, this is quite effective. It's quite effective to see how a storm can have a drastic impact on the water. In this poem, it has an impact on the dam, so the dam's hands open and the water streams out. Let's take a look at the first stanza. The wind began to rock the grass with threatening tunes and low. He flung a menace at the earth, a menace at the sky. So the first thing that jumps out at me in this very first stanza is the repetition of the word menace. And the diction generally is quite menacing, threatening. And so instead of having the wind rocking like one might rock a baby, the rocking is quite different because of the ominous diction, the word menace repeated and the word threatened. And then the rocking obviously also indicates the movement of the grass as it rocks backwards and forwards, or in whichever direction the wind is blowing it. With threatening tunes and low. And then this word begun is so unusual. What do you make of begun instead of began? Why use the simple past tense without the expected helping verb had begun? Perhaps she is trying to foreground how the wind had started blowing before it became menacing, or perhaps this is just an archaic usage. And then the wind is personified as a he. He is personified. And so this makes him much more dangerous, because we often think of men as being more aggressive and dangerous. So a male storm is more dangerous perhaps than a female storm. The leaves unhooked themselves from trees and started all abroad. The dust did scoop itself like hands and throw away the road. I do love this stanza. I think it's quite beautiful. So the leaves are personified, and where the wind might pluck the leaves from the trees and then blow them all around, the leaves are being personified. They appear to be trying to escape, so they unhook themselves and move around, started all abroad. And the dust does the same thing. The dust tries to scoop itself up. It's desperate to escape. It's personified. It scoops itself up, with the simile comparing it to hands, trying to throw the road or itself away to get away from the wind, when in fact it's the wind that's blowing the dust around. The wagons quickened on the streets. The thunder hurried slow. The lightning showed a yellow beak and then a livid claw. So the wagons didn't quicken, the people did as they hurried for home. It personifies the wagons, but perhaps it's also a pun. So perhaps the wagons seem to come to life. They quicken, because the word quicken can have more than one meaning. It heightens the urgency and sense of panic as the storm descends. The wagons seem to come to life. They seem to hurry. And then, have you noticed how the dashes function? They're the long M dashes, like visual lightning bolts in the poem. The lightning showed a yellow beak and then a livid claw. So the yellow beak is pointy and dangerous again, and the claw is livid and angry. The claw also signals the shape of a lightning bolt as it comes towards the earth. The lightning's compared to a yellow beak, sharp and dangerous, and the shape of a livid claw. The word livid means furious or angry. So the storm is still dangerous, and it's seen as a foe. So you can see the shape of the lightning bolt there. If you compare it to the claw on the right, you can see what the poet is referring to with that image. Note the oxymoron. The storm hurried slow. A storm can seem far off, but can also seem scary enough to appear to approach fast. So the oxymoron seems to capture that slow and ominous arrival that also at the same time seems to hurry slow. Quite a clever oxymoron, I think. The birds put up the bars to nests, the cattle fled to barns. There came one drop of giant rain, and then as if the hands, and the line doesn't end. So we have enjambment that occurs between this stanza and the next. In this stanza, the animals are like the humans, appearing to barricade themselves in their homes. So you get a picture of the birds putting up the bars to nests, so you can perhaps picture the sticks that make up the nest looking a bit like bars. So they barricade themselves in, and the cattle flee home to their barn. And then the final line starts the enjambment that carries the storm relentlessly from this stanza to the next without a break, and begins the dam hand metaphor. So the hand that held the dams had parted hold, so it opens up. The hands open, personifying the dam, and the water gushes out through its hands. A lot of personification. The waters wrecked the skies. The rain is so devastating and relentless that the sky is wrecked. You cannot see it because of the mass of water falling from the clouds. But overlooked my father's house. So thank goodness. The speaker in this poem might be the poet, but fortunately the storm overlooked my father's house, just quartering a tree. And I find that word just so interesting. So the lightning, the sky, the storm sends out a bolt and slices the tree. It quarters it. But the word just feels anticlimactic, as though more was expected of the great show of force and danger. Thankfully, it overlooked, it overlooked the speaker's house and hit the tree instead. And that is The Wind Began to Rock the Grass by Emily Dickinson.